Using the holiday weekend as cover, the White House quietly released a memo on Friday that they claim details what really happened between administration officials and Congressman Joe Sestak. But tonight, brand new questions are being raised about the White House's story. Now, the memo, penned by top Obama lawyer Bob Bauer, alleges that Rahm Emanuel asked former President Bill Clinton to approach Sestak about serving on an unpaid presidential panel. In return, Sestak would have to end his Senate campaign against Arlen Specter. But as Byron York points out in today's Washington Examiner, calling in a former president for such an obscure proposition, well, doesn't exactly meet the smell test. In addition, it has been rumored that Sestak was offered a spot on the president's Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board. But if that's true, major holes would be poked in the White House's story, because unless he resigned from Congress, Sestak would not have legally been able to serve on that board. So with serious doubts being cast on the White House's versions of what went down, where do we go from here? Let me bring in California Congressman Darrell Issa, and from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow is here. All right, Congressman, you've been all over this more than anybody. First of all, the idea that what they were saying in the letter was, oh, no, you can serve in Congress and on the advisory board. Have we confirmed, in fact, that would not be a board that would be available to him?
We have confirmed that the board, created under an executive order by none other than Bill Clinton, would not be available to him. More importantly, it's very, very clear now that they're stepping away from it by Robert Gibbs saying that although it's not that board, he's not going to say what board it is. So much for transparency.
Yeah, well, here we go again. Now, you also went out there and you've been saying that you suspect there is witness tampering potentially in this case. Can you explain that?
Well, one of the amazing things is after 10 weeks of stonewalling, the White House, before coming up with what their answer was, that very carefully crafted page and a half, they contacted Joe Sestak's brother, who's his campaign manager, and negotiated the language. Now, if you're actually trying to just answer a question truthfully, you don't need to coordinate with the person who could have disputed it. But that's exactly what they did. They made sure that they had a statement which was just loosey-goosey enough that Joe Sestak, Admiral Sestak, originally agreed it was accurate. But then when questioned about the specifics of the job, that statement fell apart.
Yeah, a lot of this story, Jay, as we've been following here, is falling apart. Yeah. By any definition, this is not a high-ranking position, first of all. It doesn't seem, as we've been pointing out, to fit Sestak's story nor the administration's story. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think what the congressman said is correct, and what we said last week, Sean, when I was on your broadcast is correct, that one, this position that they were offering him was not something a sitting congressman could even sit on. He couldn't be part of that panel, could not be part of that advisory board. We brought that up last week. What they're hoping for, of course, was exactly what you said, that on Friday, when they announced this, by Tuesday, nobody be talking about it. Well, guess again. People are talking about it, and people are outraged. But here's where the pressure point has to come on. There has to be a convergence from members of Congress, from both parties, which you're starting to see, and the American people, putting that pressure on either the FBI, the Department of Justice, to open an investigation. You know, if there was nothing to hide here, this is very easy to solve. You bring the congressman under oath, you ask a few questions, and you get the answer. But, Sean, in addition to that communication that went to the brother of Congressman Sestak, you also had former President Clinton in the White House the day before the announcement. Maybe they think the American people are stupid, but they're not. And people realize that there's some orchestration going on here.
Jay, let me ask you about this, because we have Jim Messina, President Barack Obama's Deputy Chief of Staff, allegedly also offering a position, something of value. 18 U.S. Code 600 says nothing of value can be offered. It's very clear in the statute. In the case of Andrew Romanoff, to get out of the race against Michael Bennet out in the Colorado race here. So this goes on. There's another case that is right out there, and Romanoff isn't talking either, interestingly.
This is Chicago politics. This is business as usual for this administration, and they've made these analogies to other administrations, but the fact of the matter is they're the ones that hit the high road of transparency. We're going to be open and honest, and there's an exactly, if you read those statutes, it's 600, 595, the Hatch Act, it reads almost verbatim as to what happened here, and what you've got is a situation, and it's very clear, the White House interfering with these campaigns, trying to get individuals not to run, basically, you know, with these positions. positions. It should be an investigation to determine the violation here. But I don't see Eric Holder doing it unless the pressure really keeps up.
Well, and there's also something of value offered in exchange. Congressman, I know Republicans on the Judiciary Committee have now asked the FBI, because Eric Holder, being a political appointee, is not going to do anything here. Are you convinced that an FBI investigation would get to the bottom of this, Congressman?
Well, we're convinced that in the past, when the FBI has sent agents in to ask questions and get on-the-record answers, they've typically been very different than the original story coming out of any White House. You might remember the dismissal of the travel office under Bill Clinton. Very different after the White House did their investigation than the FBI did theirs.
All right.
But, you know, Sean, to a great extent, the one thing we're never going to probably get to the bottom of is what happened to transparency, what happened to integrity in this administration.
All right, are you suspicious? Let me put it this way. I want to get the right wording here. That law breaking took place here, Congressman?
Sean, it's my job to look for what looks suspicious. And having done this now for almost 10 years in Congress, this looks as suspicious as any other activity I've ever seen. You know, you see a lot of other things circling around, but this one where they're fixing their stories and then their stories still don't work is about as fishy as they come.
Jay, real quick, same
Certainly
question.
enough to make an investigation, that's for sure. Certainly enough to investigate.
All right, guys, we're going to continue to stay on the case. Appreciate you both being with us.